Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this new episode of all that I've ever learned from Anthony Robbins over the years. This is episode number 24 of 365 that I plan to publish over the next 12 months. And it's a tribute to the great man, to the big man, Anthony Robbins, or Tony Robbins as some people know him. He has rebranded himself over the years. And what I'd like to do is today, on this beautiful spring Sydney morning, go on a walk and talk and discuss another element of his teachings, a key element in fact. And what we're going to do is we're just going to go for a bit of a walk and talk and just delve into the importance of decisions and how decisions shape our destiny, shape our trajectory, and help in many ways propel us, to push us, to drag us to where our destiny is. So Anthony Robbins first of all defines, and he looks at the root of that word decision, the etymology, and he says that the word decision comes from a Latin word which means to cut away from. So a decision is an action, but not just an action, it's a dramatic, it's a powerful action, because what it does is it cuts away from where it was before, and it changes a path. It sets you on a new trajectory. It sets you in a new direction. It's purposeful. It's done with thought. It's done with emotion. And Anthony Robbins tells us that where we are today, who we are today, is the compounding effect of all the decisions that we have made in our lives, or all the other decisions that other people have made for us in our life. But regardless of whether or not the decisions have been of our own calling or somebody else's calling, Anthony Robbins says that as humans we have free choice. And a lot of people say, well, how do you mean we've got free choice? You know, there are first, second, and third level consequences for all the decisions we make and all the things that we do. But as Anthony Robbins says, that you control what you do, taking into consideration those first, second, and third level consequences. And in many ways, a lot of those first, second consequences are just a figment of your imagination and not all that real anyway, because many of those things that we worry about, many of those consequences that we consider are consequences which are not real. They're irrational. They're irrational fears that we have either made up using our own vivid imagination, or that we've inherited from someone else over the years, be it our parents, our grandparents, uncles, aunts, friends, schoolmates, work peers, the media, some influencer on YouTube or Instagram. But as we said, a lot of these things are are, let me have a look, this forecourt here is closed. I want to go around to the front. Let's see if we can take another path. Maybe not. But once again, the decisions that we make influence dramatically who we are and who we become. So what we need to do, according to the big man, Tony Robbins, is that we need to become detectives of decision making. We need to learn to become decisive and to learn how to make decisions, and to understand that whatever decision you make can be changed. You're not locked into a decision or a particular decision forever and a day. You decide, you check in, you review how you're going. Are you on track or off track? And if you're off track, you just get back on track. Just like there, that was a perfect example of how life is. There were barriers across the top there saying that the forecourt is closed for some sort of event that's going to happen today. And all I did was just change my approach, went down the stairs and found another road. I decided I'd cut away from where that barrier was up the top there and try something else. And by the looks of it, it may have worked. So let's see how we go. What I want to do is I want to go to the front of the Opera House. And for those who weren't aware, yesterday was the Opera House's 50th birthday. I came down last night with my sister-in-law Elpida, who's visiting us from Greece. I heard it on the news and I just simply told her, in half an hour, get ready, we're going for a bit of a trip today. And we came down to the city and we watched the spectacular laser show that lit up this beautiful monument. And I say beautiful monument now, but I remember as a 13-year-old that back in 1973, when it was first unveiled, the public was aghast at the Opera House, saying that we were going to be the laughing stock of the world. This ugly modern building had no place in this conservative country, this conservative city. But 50 years later, I'm happy to say that our Sydney Opera House has turned from in our perceptions from that ugly duckling into a beautiful, beautiful swan. And yesterday was its 50th anniversary, 50th birthday. What I'll do is I'll just keep on walking to the end here of the promenade, and I hope to see Sammy the seal out the front there. A seal that has found a home on the steps of the Opera House, the steps that lead up from the water, the steps that the Queen would have used when she travelled across the water there to visit the Opera House back in 1973 for its inauguration, for its opening. So really, really interesting and really, really powerful. But let's get back on topic in terms of decisions. So it's important to make that all humans, and this is from a Christian perspective of course, all Christians, all people, regardless of their denomination, are born with a thing called free will. We can make whatever decision we want in the world and live with the consequences. We all have different fates. Just because it didn't work for you yesterday Just because it didn't work for your mother, your father, your grandparents, your friends yesterday or in the past doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to work for you when you try, and vice versa. Just because it worked for you in the past doesn't mean that it's going to continue to work for you into the future. We need to understand that. We need to appreciate it, that each person has their own fate, and all the things that we decide to do can work out and cannot work out. So it all depends on God's will. We can decide all we want. We can change our approach all we want. But sometimes we need to listen to God in terms of the clues, the messages that He leaves for us for our own spiritual benefit. Now, fair enough, you can just keep on being persistent and keep on pushing and keep on doing things and getting yourself closer and closer and closer to what you want. But sometimes life has a number of false summits where you reach the very, very top of a building, you reach the very top of a summit and look around and still feel empty, still feel lonely, still feel sad, still feel unfulfilled, because what you've realized is you've put all your effort into doing something that doesn't really make you happy, doesn't allow you to grow and develop in a way that you're meant to, doesn't serve your soul, doesn't serve your psyche. And then you must decide at that point what to do next. A lot of people get to the top, they become CEO, they get married, they have a lot of things happening in their lives, and then they look back and realise that it all means nothing. Anyway, Sammy the seal is not here this morning. He's probably already ducked into the water to go on his morning forage for food. We'll come back in a few minutes and hopefully he'll be around. But as you can see, we've got an art installation here with these posts, these beautiful posts, which have oysters attached to them. I'll just keep on heading over here because we've got this magnificent sunrise happening here in the east, not a cloud to be seen in the sky, and we've got the sun about to make a glorious entry into this new day. So as we were saying before, that we all have our own fate, and we can tempt fate, we can push fate by doing the things that we want to do and just keep on going. But sometimes, things that we're looking for, we get, but we get at a cost. And the important thing for everybody to try and achieve in their lives is to live their life serving God with all their heart, mind and soul, worshipping, loving God with everything, and doing the things that are God-pleasing. Now, asking yourself the question at every decision point, is what I am doing right now God-pleasing? And taking the energy of what you're doing and just doing it with love, doing it with all your soul, doing it with all your capabilities, so that you achieve one aspect of your life, and that is to serve God, and the other aspect, the other call to action that we all have, is to serve God by loving one another, loving our neighbours as we love ourselves. And the clue there, the very, very important clue, is that you need to love yourself first in order to be able to love someone else. You can't spend all your time loving other people and not loving yourself, because that will drain you, that will empty you. And love is a sacrifice. Love is giving up of yourself, deciding to give up of yourself in order to benefit other people, in order to give others things that they can't give to themselves. So a powerful sort of concept that comes from Anthony Robbins, the concept that we need to make decisions. We just can't flip-flop. We just can't go through life as a dabbler. We've got to be a participant and not a spectator. We've got to be action-oriented, not just a talker. We've got to be able to do things, and do things that are going to have the greatest and most productive impact and return on the investment, a spiritual return, a return that's going to last an eternity. Because as a friend of mine once said, you don't have to save the world. You don't have to save every single person. But if you can save one person, if you can help one person and save them, save their soul, then what you've done is you've saved a soul for eternity. You've given that person an eternal gift. You know, some people can buy you a Ferrari or give you a house, a postcode on the water, but that will only last you a lifetime. If somebody can do something, if somebody can say something, if somebody can invest in your eternity, then that is the greatest gift that you can give anybody. And that is something that I'm sure that Jesus will look out for at the second coming, and hopefully reward the people who help others save their souls and to live a more productive and better life. But all of that happens when we make decisions, when we make decisions that impact and influence our lives and the lives of others around us. Because it's in our moment of decision, as Anthony Robbins says, that we create our destiny. It's in the moment of our decisions that we help others create their destiny, because we are the sum product of all the decisions we have made in our lives, and we have made infinitely more good decisions than bad decisions, something that Anthony Robbins really harps on. A lot of people just focus on their bad decisions and spend their life beating themselves up, talking about all the things that didn't go right for them. But we've made a lot of good decisions, and we need to be able to put things into perspective and to remember and recall all the great decisions that we've made in our lives. And we've got to give ourselves credit for those great decisions that we've made for ourselves, and the great decisions that we've made to try and help other people who of course ask for help. We just can't go out there just giving help that is unsolicited, unasked for, because what you're doing there is you're creating problems. So we need to give ourselves more credit for the great decisions we've made, and to give ourselves a pat on the back. Anthony Robbins made a very, very beautiful point at UPW this year, where he says that praise is the father of good, and praise for all the great things is what separates people of substance from people of pleasure. And what one needs to do is we need to be detectives and to be the authors of praise to the people around us. Tony Robbins teaches people to pat themselves on the back. You just grab the hand, lift it up over your back and just pat yourself on the back, because we need to train ourselves to be our own parent. And for those of us who don't have our parents any longer, we need to find a way to keep that positive momentum, that positive energy continuing. And the way you do it is you can become your own best parent. You can pat yourself on the back when you're doing something that is God-pleasing. That pat on the back is a pat from your parent, is a pat from God. So you can shape your life in whichever way you desire. Because as we've learnt from the great man, in terms of the way the human brain works, you can't really tell, the human brain can't really tell the difference between something that is vividly imagined and something which is real. No, whatever you focus on, your perception is your reality. So this is really, really important. This is really key for everybody to accept and understand, that the human brain is really, really powerful, and how we use it is really important. So the decisions we make are important, plus the, just bear with me, plus the anchoring that we make and the meaning that we attach to those decisions is also keen, very, very important as well. Because Tony Robbins teaches us that positive reinforcement releases dopamine into our bodies. It floods our bodies with those pleasure hormones. So by being positive and reinforcing it, by being positive and conditioning that positivity, has a tremendous resounding impact on your future and on your present. So we need to learn the art of positive reinforcement, because it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Let me just focus in on that sunrise. It's just magnificent. Becomes so important to reinforce the positivities in our lives, and to live with positive expectancy, to make decisions with positive expectancy in terms of their outcome, because you know that the decision you make builds momentum, creates progress. It takes kinetic energy and it moves it forward. You start to move along a path, and as you move along that path, you get closer and closer to a next decision point. And we are the sum product of all the decisions we have ever made in our lives, as we mentioned before, but also the decisions that we've accepted, also the decisions that other people have made on our behalf. So a great lesson, a really important lesson. So I think it's closed over there, so what I'll do is I'll go back around the front. But as you can see, today is a magical morning. Hardly anybody here to receive the magic. A lot of people have decided to sleep in, to lie in their beds, and there's nothing wrong with that. But look at what you're missing out on. Look at this beauty. This city just oozes beauty. So we're called to become detectives and to become our parents by patting ourselves on the back and doing the things, reinforcing the things that are going to make us better people. So it's important to provide positive reinforcement to ourselves and to our children and to all the people we come into contact with. So Anthony Robbins, during the seminar, did an exercise where he got everybody to pat themselves on the back, because we're all worthy at the end of the day. We have all done a lot for ourselves and a lot for others, even though we don't remember it, even though we can't recall it, because we've probably pushed it into the back of our minds and we've just focused on the wrong things. So then Anthony Robbins calls the group to action, and he says to people to try and remember the 2 decisions that will help you or have helped you in the past get to where you are today, and decisions that you want to thank yourself for, and to think of what 2 decisions will help you and will help your life thrive at this moment. And once again, he reminds us that all change comes with fear, uncertainty and doubt, because nobody's been to the future. But we need to be comfortable with being uncertain. There are certain things you can do every day to add to your certainty. You can stack certainty. We have the ability to stack certainty, to start our day with certainty, because the day is going to be, as we know, uncertain. But by stacking certainty, by doing rituals, like the ritual that I do a 5 a.m. club every single day. I publish a video to YouTube. I have the biggest YouTube channel in the world on personal development. We need to do things in a ritualized way so that we can have a certain amount of certainty to kick off our day, to give us the propulsion, to give us energy, to give us the ability to leverage from that certainty, and to know that there are going to be times when things are going to go askew. But this is where Anthony Robbins reminds us we need to rely on the fact that we've made lots and lots of good decisions, and to remind ourselves of those many good decisions, to pat ourselves on the back, and to charge headstrong into the world, knowing that whatever happens, whatever comes in our path, we're going to find another path. We're going to find a solution, because as Marie Forleo, a student of Anthony Robbins, always says, everything is figure-outable. Human beings are ingenious. We have the ability to sort things out, to figure things out, to learn, to attach the unknown to the known, and to build patterns, to rely on patterns, and to find answers. Because humans are teleological in nature. And teleological in nature means that we can close the loop. Give us a problem and we'll give you multiple solutions. give us throw a barrier in our way, and we will find multiple ways to get over, under, through that barrier. It's not going to stop us. You can't stop a person who knows where they're going. We know that. We've learnt that. Our life is evidence of that. We've all had barriers. We've all had challenges in our lives, and nothing has stopped us. So I think I'll leave it there for today. So thank you very much for joining me on this wonderful morning journey where we're delivering, capturing, sharing knowledge and wisdom. And as Tony Robbins also tells us, all the knowledge in the world will get you nowhere. It's how you act on that knowledge. It's what you do with that knowledge. It's the decisions that you make and the promises that you keep to yourself, more importantly. And then after you can keep the promises to yourself, you start to develop that muscle of that promise muscle and the delivery muscle, and then you can start keeping promises to other people. But before then, if you can't keep promises to yourself, you're not going to be able to keep promises for anybody else. So I think I'll leave it there. Just head back to the station and head off to work. And I look forward to coming to you again from another place with another message of empowerment from the great man Tony Robbins, where we can live, learn and pass it on and be a beacon of hope for all of those other people in the world who are at different seasons, experiencing different seasons, different phases, different stages of their lives, and to hopefully be an example, a bright beacon of hope for them, so that they can continue along the path of life where they live, learn and hopefully pass it on, and to grow and expand at a phenomenal rate whilst we have the opportunity to. Take care, Yasas, and bye for now.